Tonight in the shop, I'm going to be working on the e36. I'm going to be taking the rear diff out of the thing, and not only am I going to be taking the rear diff out, I'm going to try and make my own bushings. Let us first take a look at what's wrong with this. So the rear bushings on this thing, they look pretty good. This is a 319 ratio diff, and I want to change it for a 391 so I can get a little bit more torque down low. Mechanical torque, obviously, not engine torque. But the previous owner has a bolt in the front bushing here. Not in focus. No, in focus. The bolt up front here is about an inch too long, inch and a half maybe, and it's covered in silicone, and the bushing up here is quite bad. You can see if I push on this, I can move the diff around, and that bolt's flopping around in the bushing. So this is the one that I want to change. The other two I might leave for now, because I'm going to change this for a 391 as soon as I get one. And there's no point in making bushings for all three of them if I'm just going to get a new diff. So, first things first, I've jacked up the car. I'm now going to take the axles off and remove the drive shaft bolts, and then go from there. While I'm over here, I've got the axle removed, bolts are out. I'm going to make sure that I remove the speed sensor here from the diff. You just give it a squeeze and a pull, and it comes right off. Make sure that wire's not clipped to anything that's gonna come out, and just move it out of the way. I'm gonna hang it over the sway bar here, just so it doesn't get caught on anything. And then go over to the other side, pull the other axle, and the drive shaft bolts. Now that I've got both axles removed, I've got the drive shaft disconnected, and I've got the wheel speed sensor pulled out, I'm gonna try my best to remove the forward mount here and this awesome custom hardware. And beneath the first nut and all the silicone is another nut. Not sure if you guys can see that, but I'm turning the head of this bolt a fair bit, and nothing's turning back here. I think that bolt snapped, and that's why this is rocking around so much. I don't know. This is just a mess. As you can see, that portion of the bolt is still in there. The diff now is free, and this is what came out of that hole. So you can see the bolt sheared off. It's been that way for a while now. And I got the bolt most of the way out, and then once I hit the sheared portion into the metal part of the bushing, it just pulled the whole bushing out with it. So the diff is now only being supported by the transmission jack and the two rear mounts. And in order to get the bolt out of the rear mount here, I'm going to have to remove the brackets for the sway bar and push the sway bar up, because it's pretty much right in line with these bolts and you're not going to get a socket on there. So I'm going to take the sway bar off, zip tie it up to something, pull these bolts out, and then we can drop the whole diff down. Alright, everything's disconnected. Now comes the fun part, wrestling this thing out of here. You can see where that bolt was chewing through the case of the diff, and then that nut is still in there, so I'm gonna have to take that out. But I don't think this diff is gonna go back in. I'm gonna go looking at the local auto record tomorrow for a 391, see if I can find one. And then I'll make the bushings tomorrow as well, because it's like 10:30. I'm sweaty, dirty, and I just don't want to continue with this tonight. So we'll see you guys in the morning. All right, it's the next morning. I'm still waiting on a reply for the new diff. So in the meantime, I'm going to get rid of what's left of the bushings in this thing and start machining my own. So what you just saw me do there was I just took the Sawzall and I cut through the shell of this bushing, try not to hit the subframe, and then now it's quite loose in there, so I'm just going to knock it out with a hammer. Alright, diff bushing's in. Turned out pretty good. Looks better than I expected. Condor Speed Shop, what? Anyways, I don't have any information on the diff yet, so here we wait. It's ready to go back in. I just need a new diff, because the hole's messed up on this one for the front mount, so if any bolt I put in there is going to wobble around anyways. So yeah. For you guys it was probably a couple of seconds. For me, it's been about 3 days since I filmed that last clip. Long story short, I got this 391 diff from some kind of sketchy dude about 2.5 hours south of here. It took me all day. I didn't want to film anything, and now here we are. So, original diff, right here. This is a 3:15 ratio. So what that means is 3.15 turns of the input shaft here equates to 1 turn of the output shaft. Whereas this diff is a 3.91. So 3.91 turns of the input shaft equates to 1 turn of the output shaft. And if you notice, I have half an axle attached to this diff. That's because these bolts were stripped when I got there, and that's mostly why this took so long and was so frustrating. I got out there, got everything loose, could not get this one axle off, so I had to go and buy a zip cut. The nearest town was 20 minutes away from his place, and then just cut the axle right in half, pulled the thing out, and now I'm back here. So 5 hours of driving, 2-3 hours of laying under car on the side of the road, and I just didn't feel like filming anymore. But now I got the 391, more torque, more skids. I think I'm gonna end this video here. We'll see how long it is when I'm editing, but this diff needs to come apart. I'm gonna clean it up and then weld it, and then it can go back in the car. So that'll be in the next video. So thank you guys again for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next video, and you'll see how I weld this diff, and then we'll stick it back in the car.